Hi, everybody. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Alex David. I'm an English teacher down in Southern Maryland, and I will be the host of Spring into Digital Literacy webinar series. Um, Throughout this series, we'll be speaking to educators around the country about their experiences in digital literacy, all in an effort to get ready for the Summer Institute in Digital Literacy, which will be hosted again this year in Providence, July 14th to 19th. Registration's open now if you want to get involved. Our first speaker is going to be Carrie Kelly. She's here today to talk to us about transitioning from being a librarian into a media integration specialist and her experiences with digital literacy. If you notice, I opened up a chat where you can kind of introduce yourself so we know who you are and what point of view you're coming from. And then as well as while Carrie's going through her presentation, if you wanted to ask any questions there, that would be a good place to leave your questions in, and we'll try to incorporate those as she speaks. Okay. So at this time, I guess I'll give it over to Carrie, and if everybody else could just mute their microphones for now, and if you want to ask a question, feel free to unmute yourself. But for now, Carrie Kelly.
Thank you, Alex. As Alex said, my name is Carrie Kelly, and I went to the Summer Institute in 2016. So I guess it'd be 3 summers ago, coming up on this summer. And I got a lot out of it. And as you can tell, I'm still sort of involved in the process. So 1 summer down, but then still a lot more information and sharing afterwards. I think what I'll do is I'll share my slide deck with you guys. There's a bit.ly on it, so you can follow along if you want, or you can keep it. I know Cindy said that they're doing a workshop for librarians, so feel free to steal and edit for your own use. And I'm going to share my screen right now, and just either pop in with a question or write it in the chat box at any time. I want this to be really relaxed and sort of a conversation more than just a straight up presentation. All right, so let me share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see it?
Yep.
Perfect. So down at the bottom is the bit.ly, and it's just bit.ly lib2tech. I highly recommend, if you have not signed up for a bit.ly account and you're just using the little search box to shorten your links, to sign up for an account, because it lets you customize those endings, which is kind of cool. I also have a Padlet going, just kind of where I gather thoughts and ideas and questions throughout the webinar or throughout different presentations that I do. It's a good way for me to come back and reflect on what we've discussed and what we've talked about. So if you want to add to my Padlet, you can also do that at any time. Same thing, it's another bit.ly link, and it's lib2tech Padlet. So I'll leave that up for a second. Does anyone need me to go back to the screen before for the bit.ly?
I'm just checking to see. I put it up in the screen in the chat room. I think that's
perfect. Thank you so much.
there for you. I'm just checking.
I can only see my own screen right now, so if I do anything strange, just let me know.
No problem.
I can only see my presentation. So all right. So a little bit about me. I'm a lifelong Rhode Island resident. So I graduated from Rhode Island College with a BA in History and Geography, technically Geographic Information Systems, so map making, which I quickly found out there was an easy path into library school from that. So I started in the library program. I started in the archives program, but I quickly learned that that was not the route for me, and I ended up going to the school library media program. A couple years later, I decided to go back to school to Providence College, where I earned my master's in education with a concentration in literacy. And then this is just a little bit about all the different libraries I've worked in. So I worked at an independent school, St. George's School in Middletown. I worked at a high school. I worked at an elementary and junior high. I've also did a little moonlighting as a reference librarian at some public libraries in the Kingston Library at URI. And then I also teach an undergraduate course for URI. And presently, I am the technology integration specialist at Windman Middle School in Warwick, Rhode Island. So what do I love about libraries, and also a little bit of what do I miss about being in the library, is that access to information for all. So I just really miss that vital information literacy instruction that I was giving to my students and also to my teachers. I really miss the reader's advisory. That's the piece that I'm missing the most, is the pleasure reading and getting students and teachers hooked on certain books. I love the programming piece, just the fact that you can have so many different things going on in the same space at the same time. I adore the fact that a library is a safe space for all people. All different types of people come to the library, all different types of people enjoy the library. It is just such a safe space for all walks of life to come together and learn and read and research, or maybe just take a respite. I also really like working with people, which is part of the reason why the archival path did not suit my needs when I was in library school. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. All right, so what do I love about technology? Sort of some similar things. The accessibility of it, so everyone can access technology in some way. The fact that it's ever evolving, it's ever changing, and you never know what's coming down the pipe. It fosters that interconnectedness that I really love about libraries too. It gives educational opportunities to the masses. So places where there was no access to information, now there's much more easier ways to access scholarly information or any type of information that you could never have gotten to before. It's engaging for our students, especially at the middle level. They thrive on technology, which we'll talk about in a little bit, how that could be some pluses and some minuses. And then nothing is out of reach. I always think to myself, like 5-6 years ago, did I ever think that I would be watching a 3D printer in my next door neighbor teacher's classroom print out a student's work of art? And I think to myself, even 5 years ago, I don't think that I would have thought that my own partner teacher could have a 3D printer in her classroom. So nothing's out of reach. We're always constantly changing. Okay. So wearing both hats is sort of created a natural transition. For those of you that are in the library field or in the teaching field, there's definitely an intersect of technology in the library. So teacher librarians are constantly using technology in their libraries, and they're also servicing the teachers and the students all the time. So I think being a librarian in a school and at the both through K through higher ed really prepared me to do the role that I'm doing now, in that I'm able to easily help any level, any person who at any level of technology, use an app, use a tool, find the best fit for them, because I was so used to working with such a variety of learners from K to higher ed, as well as in the public library. I had a lot of different types of learners come into there too, needing some help. So wearing both hats really created a natural transition for me in the field. So you might be saying to yourself, what does a technology integrationist do? I know what a librarian does, but what does a technology integrationist do? And I saw that, Michelle, you have the same role that I do, so feel free to jump in with anything. So normally what I do is I collaborate a lot. So that's the main thing that I do. I collaborate with teachers on embedding meaningful technology and blended learning in their classrooms. I provide assistance to all staff and students. Sometimes I'll provide some leadership in developing and implementing technology plans, but that sort of is housed in a different department in our district, more in the IT department. But they will sometimes ask for our input on that. I participate in ongoing professional development. I attend instructional technology meetings and trainings to build professional development opportunities for my staff. Sometimes I collaborate with other district instructional coaches because there's only so few of us in each district to work with. I'll design and deliver professional development around blended learning. And that really has become my main goal as in my role is designing and delivering professional development. So we have built a professional development series at my school this year where we have once a month, we have a different topic and we offer it during the school day. So our teachers can come on their free period or during their planning period or common planning with their team. And we will offer a different topic of around blended learning. And that has been really, really successful. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that after. Coordinating the professional learning with our director of curriculum and instruction and my principal. And then I get to collaborate with district leadership in building leadership teams and promoting the culture of blended learning. Does anyone have any questions or want to add anything?
Yeah, I had a question for you.
Sure, great.
Alex here. Do you ever get to, in your new role, do you get to work with students much anymore? And do you miss that if you don't? And then for everybody else, if you want to ask any questions within the chat text, you can just throw your questions in there and carry them.
Okay, good. Yep, I can bring up my chat. Is my screen in presenting mode, or is it still in the other? Is it in the?
I could see your presentation still and the chat as well.
Okay. Let me see if I can get this to be better. Okay, I'll leave it like that. It'll be a little bit easier because I can see when the chat pops up then. Yeah, so you asked if I get to work with students as much anymore?
Yep.
Yeah, so yes and no. So I usually, if I'm working with directly with students, it's that I'm modeling in a teacher's classroom. I might go in and model a lesson. I might go in and model how to use a certain tool or specific app, or I might model like how to use station rotation in your classroom. So I'm really there to support the teacher, but I get to indirectly work with the students in that way. And I do that quite often, at least a few times a week, but I do miss having my own students in my own space. That was one of the hardest things to come to terms with and let go of when I took on this role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's fun to teach teachers too. Come on.
It's very similar.
It really is.
Yeah, that's going to be my follow-up question.
It is fun to teach the teachers, and like I said, I get to get the best parts of the class because they're excited that I'm there and we're doing something different usually, or doing something new and exciting. So I get to see the kids at their best, and it's amazing when the teachers can see how much their students can do. They think they think it's going to be difficult for the kids, but it just comes so naturally to them that it's amazing to watch them do that.
Carrie, Michelle has a question in the
Sure.
chat. It says, Carrie, do your colleagues ever confuse your role with that of IT? Sometimes runs into teachers coming.
Yeah, I'm going to stop the share so we can just talk. Yeah.
How do you articulate
Yes.
that role?
Yeah, I guess I'm communicating some of my own pain through that question.
Yeah, so they totally confused me with IT. Even when I was the librarian, I was like the de facto, like, go see Carrie, she'll help you hook up the projector. So that piece is still there. They haven't let that go. I also think we didn't do a great job of rolling out my role at the school. So people thought I was like a mini IT person. We have IT people that come to the building and repair the screens and hook everything up and do all of that stuff. And they saw technology in my title and just assumed, oh, another person, great. Like they'll come fix my computer, they'll hook up my printer, do all of that stuff. And I will go do that because it helps me foster relationships, to be honest. It gets me in their classroom and I'm like, oh yeah, I can hook up your printer, but look what else I can do, and bust in their room. But yeah, sometimes it's tough. And I also feel like a little bit guilty taking some of the IT work away from our IT people because I don't want to see them, I don't want them to say, oh, Carrie can do it. We don't need a full-time person at school, So I try to funnel things that are more hard IT, more software, hardware pieces to my IT person, Greg, who's fantastic, in order to not you know how budget cuts are. So I don't want them to say, he doesn't have to be at the school.
Right.
Yeah. But it's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. So I talked a little bit about what I do, and I focused more on, this is my third year in this role. So my first year was definitely like I was doing a lot of IT support. My first year and a little bit of blended learning instruction and support. My second year, I got a little bit more blended learning, a little bit more teaching and instructional coaching going on, and a little less IT. And then this year, I'm like probably 25% IT support and now 75% instructional coaching. So it does take some time, which everyone had told me that. Actually, at the Institute, I went to a panel, and that's what everyone said. They said, don't give up on it. You don't want to leave just because you feel like all you're doing is downloading apps. All you're doing is helping people charge their devices. They're like, it takes 2 or 3 years to really get your feet in the door and get that grip on the role. But this year, having that professional development series, doing this monthly series where we embed it in the school day has been a game changer. I can't even explain to you. It kind of stinks running the same session 7 times in a row because I do it every period. Stinks for me, I should say, because it's, you're doing the same thing 7 times in a row. But the teachers love it. They have been so thankful. They're like, this is so great. I can just come right downstairs on my free period or on my planning period and come meet with you. It's built into my school day. I don't have to stay after the school day. And then they're really, really excited and engaged, and they want to try the strategies we're going over. So having that embedded in the day has been great. So anyone who's offering professional development at any level or at any institution, having it built into the workday is, I think, a game changer.
Can I ask a follow-up
Of
question?
course, yeah.
What was PD culture like before you started offering that? Was that something that was happening, or did you introduce that as a new model?
It was pretty new. Like we would do it kind of sporadically. We would have stuff after school. You might have to go to another school after school, you know what I'm saying? So, and we also had this real culture of like, our teachers were like, I should be getting paid for this after school. Like if I'm staying for 2 hours after school, I should be getting paid for this. And over the last few years, we've really been able to move away from that by offering high quality stuff during the school day that it makes teachers want to come after school too.
That is so cool. Can I ask you a question about the structure of the program? So how many people are offering? So you said you had to do your lesson all day as people dropped into different. How many of you were doing, how many choices did teachers have on that day, or how did you communicate what choices they had?
Okay, so
who else was working with you to do this?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the school year, I have an assistant principal of teaching and learning at my school. The 2 of us sent out a survey saying, what topics would you like professional development on this year? So we sent out a survey right the first week of school. Then what we did was we booked a day each month ahead of time, put it on the calendar, and said, in October, we'll be offering the flipped classroom. In November, we'll be offering station rotation. It's drop-in. It's totally voluntary. Come if you'd like. If you don't want to come, if it doesn't interest you, then you don't have to come. And we've had excellent turnout. So I have 90 teachers on my staff, and I'd say we usually get over 60 each day that we have.
Wow.
So it's been really, really, really great. And it's 40 minutes. It's quick. It's done. And then what will happen is after they say, oh, when you were talking about station rotation, can you come in and show me that? And then so we just give them a little taste and then come in and support them. And that I'm so thankful that we tried this model this year because we were hesitant to do it last year, and I should have just pulled the trigger and did it, but
yeah,
did it this year.
What I like about the model is it's a low risk way for them to see you in action, and then to see the tool or the app or the practice modeled. And so then that just starts their imagination thinking. So it makes a lot of sense to me that after that, they can go then and practice or try something or imagine an activity. So in a way, it's like it's like an on-ramp, right? It gets them started.
Exactly. So, and it's very, like you said, it's very low threat. It's just, am I interested in this topic? Does this sound like something I might like to do? Then I'll go. If it's something that's too much for me, then no one's upset that I'm not there. So it's been really, really, really great. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay. All right. So the PD piece has definitely been huge. That has been taking up a lot of my time and energy, which is really great because that's what I wanted to do when I moved into this role. I was hoping to do a lot more of that. So I sort of got pushed into being a technology integrationist. I don't want to say it wasn't totally by choice. My school was closing that I was working at. I was low man on the totem pole in the library department. So I was not going to have a position. And then our schools went 1-to-1 with Chromebooks. And our IT director said, you know what, I think you'd be really great at this rather than waiting for the job fair. Why don't you interview for it? And I was like, do I want to work with just adults or do I want to leave the classroom? I'm going to miss the kids. That's what I was thinking. And I'm so thankful that I did it. So that's been really interesting. So anyone who is thinking about taking a risk or a leap of instructional coaching, I would totally recommend it. Yes, I do miss having my own students in my own space, but the rewards outweigh the risks that I took. And it was such a natural transition from being a librarian. Any of you who are librarians at a school or at a higher ed institution, you sort of are the de facto technology integration specialist or the go-to person. What app are you using? How do you use these databases? That sort of thing anyway. So I think it's a natural progression for people that are looking to sort of expand their role outside of just being a librarian. I don't know what people think of that, but
seems cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I have an awesome relationship with my librarian at my school too. So like I said about my IT person, I'm very careful to funnel things that I think are more hard IT to him. I do the same thing for her with library skills. So information literacy instruction, reader's advisory, anything like that. Although I could answer the questions because I have the background in it, I always default to our librarian, Mary, because same thing. I don't want our role to become one and the same. It should be two separate roles at the school. And I know a lot of schools are moving to just having one person doing both jobs. So we're very fortunate that they've kept a full-time librarian at our school and have me working full-time. Michelle, do you have a librarian or are you both?
Yeah, well, I just started in my role a couple of months ago, and we have a librarian, and she has very quickly become my ally. And
Yes.
And actually, she was thinking of applying for my job. So it's what you're saying is very interesting to me. And I guess, do you have any advice about how to, I don't know, how to keep the roles separate but intertwined? Like how can I access my librarian the best that I can or should?
Mm-hmm. So normally what I'll do if someone asks me for a specific tool or something, and I think it's more information literacy based, I will say, you know what, Mary has this great thing that's called askri.org, and it's free access to all the, all these scholarly databases. Let's go make an appointment with her for her to come into the room, or something. I saw Mary using Animoto with, a group of students. Like, let's ask her. So I try to do that with her as well. And we've talked a little bit about like what her expertises are and what her expectations are. And I wanted her to know from the start not to feel threatened, because I think it probably felt weird for her. Like, oh, this other person's coming to my school. She's also a librarian and she's going to take on this role. And I'm the librarian here. Like, how is this going to work? Because while we have a library now, she's always going into the classrooms and moving around the building. It's not everyone coming to the library. She was already pushing into rooms. So I think she was a little bit worried about how our paths were going to intersect. And
Carrie,
yes.
Carrie, what's interesting about that is that it's in a way, because you just said, well, I'm knowledgeable about what the librarian is good at, what she knows how to help with, what she's passionate about. And I bet that's true for a lot of people over the last 3 years. You've gotten to know what the staff, what they're passionate about, what they're good at, where they've had success. So you're actually kind of be able to connect people. That's like a real leadership role, right? In seeing how people can begin to learn from each other.
Yeah, so that's another thing that I try to do on occasion, or as much as possible. I'll offer teachers to go visit another teacher, or go observe, or just pop into another room. We did a thing called pineapple charting. I don't know if any of you have heard of that before. I can quickly explain it, but you can Google it later. But it's, you make a chart. All the studies say that a physical paper chart is best, where teachers can go and post up if they're doing something cool in their class that week. And then people can just take a walk by the chart, see when they're doing something, and go ahead and take a visit in the classroom. And they know that they're welcome to come in. So we've had some success with that. I mean, everyone's so busy that it's a little trickier, but I try and check the chart so I can connect people together with it. But we've had a lot of success with our science teachers. If they're doing an awesome lab or something like that, they'll put it up on the chart, and then we'll have ELA teacher go see it, or a math teacher go check it out. So that's been really cool too, is kind of getting everyone in each other's classrooms without any, checklist or clipboard or evaluative materials. They're just going in to watch, and that's it. And that's the other big piece of pineapple charting too, is making sure that you're not asking your teachers to, formulate a response or write a reflection on what they've seen. They're supposed to just go in, check it out, say, oh, that was awesome, I'm going to do that in my own class. But, if you try to make them fill out a form or write a report after, no one wants to do it. So pineapple charting is super casual, and that's been really awesome too. And some of our teachers have even now, like, they'll send out an email to our whole staff, I'm doing this week. We have an Egyptian museum in the cafeteria, come by and check it out. So that's been really great too. So another quick tip, it's easy. You don't have to do anything yourself. It's your teachers are doing the PD for you. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, we have a question from Cindy.
Oh,
from
okay. Yep,
Project Look Sharp. She was asking about the other topics that you have PD about. You mentioned the classroom, but what are some other things that you do PD for?
Yep, so we did the flipped classroom, station rotation. Last month we did we did 2 workshops on differentiation because the topic is so complex. So that was one big thing that we might even do our whole series on differentiation next year, because there's so many layers to it. This month we're doing questioning, so how to ask good questions and get students to participate in discussions. And I'm trying to think what else we did. We did one other one. I think that's it, actually. Yeah. So far.
Notice how it's not app driven, it's not technology centric. I love that. That's really noteworthy. Thanks for asking that question, Cindy.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, and Cindy, I can send you all of our stuff.
That would be great.
Yeah, no problem. We're good at sharing.
Yeah. In the workshops that we've done with librarians recently, they very consistently say they feel that they have been replaced, that what they used to do was be such an important resource for students and for teachers on where to go to get information and to advise them. And now they feel like the teachers are just bypassing them and going directly to the web to get stuff. And pretty consistently, they felt that they're lost in what their role is. But this is for librarians, not technology integration folks. So I love that you're kicking people to the librarian for when that makes sense. So.
Yes, and I'll say our librarian she is very good at advertising, and she's a little pushy, but in a good way, right? So she's constantly touting what the library has. She's constantly sending out all the lists of all the sources we subscribe to. So she's really good at that. She's good at drumming up business, I would say, in that respect. And she's also very good at saying, I'll come into your classroom, or we can meet in the STEAM lab, or I'll meet you in the gym. Like, she's very, very good at that. So I think those are simple things that people can do that they don't think of. But definitely I can feel your pain on the role being lost, because it's transforming so fast. And it is hard to just not go to the web. I mean, we're all guilty of it, of just Googling things. And sometimes even I know, I'm thinking to myself, I should probably fact check this, so, but yeah, it's so easy. And I think that's another thing that would be a great workshop for librarians to deliver to teachers is sort of stuff, some a fake news series maybe, or something like that. That would be really interesting to me, or how to find the best sources on the web, because if they're going to skip the library, then you at least hope that they're going to be searching for valid information.
And let me just clarify, when you do these monthly workshops, you do that collaboratively with the librarian and the IT person, or just you?
So it's, we have an assistant principal of teaching and learning. So she and I co-teach it, and our librarian always comes to a lot of them. So she comes as a participant, but she sometimes offers her own professional developments for people on how to use different library resources. And she has a little maker space, so she'll have like little open houses for the teachers to come in and just make little crafts to see what's in there. And
got it. Okay,
that sort of stuff. Anyone else? Okay.
Got kind of a big picture question for you.
Sure.
You have such a broad perspective about digital literacy, from teaching middle schoolers to teaching teachers to teaching college students. So where are the holes, or can you talk about the importance of this whole thing in terms of preparing people to be successful in college and careers?
Sure. I think the biggest hole is, I would say the largest hole is knowing what your sources are. So where you're getting your information from. I think from middle school all the way to higher ed, to the teachers I work with, I think the quick Google search and taking the first website is prevalent among all three populations. So that's where the biggest hole is teaching our teachers, teaching our college students, teaching our middle school students, probably starting in kindergarten. What am I looking at, and why was it written? Who's it written for? So I think that sort of evaluating your sources is the biggest hole.
Yeah.
And I think the issue is that it's hard for adults to do it. So how do we teach it to our students? Especially with the prevalence of social media.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's a big picture thing.
Yeah, and you're right that there are some ways in which the technology tools themselves discourage this practice. So Google's knowledge graph box that pops up when you type in a query, there's like an answer in a box, right? It's sourceless, right? It's just like, this is the fact, right? And it encourages people to think about knowledge as something that's decontextualized from authors and purpose. So in a way, the platforms themselves are designed to enable people to skip over those questions about author and purpose. So, it's not like people are just dumb. It's that the platforms really are being designed to minimize our awareness of those important ideas.
Yes, definitely. So, and I see that all the time. Even, I see my teachers looking for materials for their lessons, and they're on Pinterest or Teachers Pay Teachers. You are getting crap. Like, what are you doing? Like, and they don't even, you know what I mean? They just right. They don't know where to start or how to search or where to look. So it's definitely tricky. I don't know how to fix it per se, but I think good library instruction early on in students' careers is where it's at. So having that elementary library curriculum where students have access to scholarly materials and have access to evaluating sources is huge. I also think teaching teachers how to do this, because if they're gonna bypass the library, or that maybe they don't have a librarian at their school, showing the students that first hit on Google or that knowledge box may not be the be all and end all, and that there are free resources like, in Rhode Island we have askri.org, which is access to EBSCOhost databases for free. Most states have something like that, and teaching our teachers that those are available to them, I think is huge. When I would show a teacher that, they'd be like, what? This is all here for free? And it has consumer reports and things like that for your own personal use that you can use for free just by typing your library card number in or typing your zip code in. So I think teaching our people that is is amazing.
I think about this a lot too, and I wonder if, because I see a lot of teachers out of care curating resources for students, and I think it comes from a really good place, but I wonder if we can, like, it's okay if a student chooses the wrong resource, if then you're able to have that follow-up. It's like a teachable moment, and I often think about that, like, how can we get away from the curated list of resources and really let kids try to find something and defend it, and if they can't, then find something else, and it's a process.
Yes.
It's so much easier just to give them the list.
Absolutely.
It's so much easier to say you can go on World Book online. Right? So, but no, you're totally right. It's hard work, but I think it's so meaningful just to teach people in general how to look at what they're looking at with a critical eye, whether it's, you know, a post on Facebook or a tweet or a newspaper article. I think just even teaching our students that hopefully will teach them to be more critical thinkers as they grow older. So, anyone else? This is a really great discussion. I am really appreciating this. Let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to mention.
Carrie, can I ask you a selfish question?
Of course, yeah.
Do teachers show movies at it's a West Warwick High School or West?
It's a middle school in Warwick. Yeah.
Warwick. Do teachers use films or videos in school, and are there any issues around that?
So,
YouTube, I mean.
Yeah.
And other kinds of video and film media.
Yeah. We definitely have teachers that use video clips. If you know the tool Edpuzzle, I don't know if anyone's aware of that, where you can upload video clips and insert questions in it that the students have to ask. It's a really great tool. But yeah, so they're definitely using video clips. We're pretty good about not like just showing a whole movie, you know, so that's been, our teachers have gotten away from that, which is good. But there's definitely, like, our science teacher will show like a clip from Mythbusters, and then they do their own like Mythbuster science lab or something like that. So we definitely have teachers using video in their classrooms. Yeah.
Carrie, in your presentation, you talk about blended learning. I see there's a video in there, but I'm not sure if we can play it or not, but do you want to kind of talk about it?
We can try, yeah. So I have a video in my presentation of blended learning in a school library media center, and this is one of my colleagues, Tara Castro. She's an elementary librarian in my school district, and she's awesome. She's a Fuse fellow right now too, so she's really into technology, and she's sort of spearheaded this ahead of time before a lot of teachers were doing blended learning. She was already doing it in her library. So let me see if I can play the video for you guys, because it's really cute and it'll give you a good idea of what she does. Okay, share my screen. All right, let's save it. We'll go.
Blended learning gives students more control over their learning.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Great.
In every classroom, this is station rotation in my library. I use my website to flip lessons and let students learn from home. Google Classroom is one of my favorites for anytime, anywhere learning. And playlists allow students to work at their own pace. Blended learning lets you target student strengths and weaknesses. When kids are in focused groups talking, they're learning. The teacher becomes a facilitator. It's not all about the technology, but boy, does that help to get students engaged. Blended learning allows me to model what I really want from my students. Be persistent, be creative, and look for ways to improve. For me, blended learning was an opportunity to make a big change in the way I taught students.
Okay.
Cute kids.
Yeah, she's really awesome. So you could see in her library that they were doing a variety of activities, right? She had more science-based, some science-based activities. They had technology, they had books. She's really awesome. So, and I linked her website in there too, and she's really great too. She said anyone can use anything of hers as well. So that's just a little clip of what blended learning can look like in a library, and what it would look like in any sort of classroom. There's not one size fits all. There's not one model. It's messy. It looks different everywhere you go. I've been experimenting with it at the college level in my URI class that I teach. So it's not protocol. It's not exactly how most people work at the higher ed level, but I think a lot of people are shifting in that direction because our students are coming up from high schools where they're used to working in this sort of way, and then they're moving into a classroom where it's a traditional lecture, and they're just not functioning as well as they could.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well in terms of higher education, that there is that expectation that in graduate school you sit around a seminar room and discuss, right? But actually hands-on hands-on activity-based project-based learning is really good for graduate school too.
Yes. Yep. So I have my URI class I teach, it's Library 150. It's research in the information age, and I teach it sort of in a flipped model. So all my materials are online, so the students will watch a video or read an article or something at night, and then they come to class and we work on the actual assignment together in the class when I'm there to support them rather than them doing the homework at home. So that's been really successful, I think. So we have sort of more of like a lab setting, and they're so funny. You know, I have freshmen and sophomores mostly, but they're like, we get to do the work in class. I'm like, yeah, you get to do the work in class. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you with the work. So it's good because I think they go from some very traditional lectures, you know, with 300 kids and just taking notes to a lab setting with me, and it's good. So.
I have a question for you about your plans for the future with this really great PD model that you have developed with your assistant principal. So how do you know it's working? And what's your plans for how you will document and assess?
So we try to do a little exit ticket at the end of each session. Most people take it, some people don't. But so we just ask a couple questions. What'd you like best? Would you do it again? What can we change? We have all that in a Google. We do it with a Google form, so it's collecting the data in a spreadsheet for us, so we can kind of see where there's holes or where there's things that we could have worked better on. When we talk, I go every 2 weeks. I go to an instructional leadership team meeting with all our district leaders. So it's our principals and then the other 4 people that have the same role as me in the district. And we showed the principals our model that we're doing, and 2 other schools picked it up and have been having great success too. So I think that's really good. And I think next year we're going to push down to the elementary school. So there's 4 technology integrationists in my district. So the 4 of us will sort of take turns going to the elementary schools and doing it for them there. So that'll be really cool too. So it's just the role's expanding for sure, which is great. Really collecting the data and just seeing what's working and what's not is the plan for right now. And also just, I guess, anecdotal data of who's trying new things in their classroom. We always talk about that at our weekly meetings too. Like, I saw so-and-so doing this. Did you see them? They decided to actually do a station rotation instead of just a lecture, you know? So we have little powwows about that. So
nice. So informal sharing of how people are taking up these practices.
Exactly. Whereas my principal and my assistant principal are obviously more in the evaluative role where they go into the classroom and evaluate the teachers, which I never do. I never go in there in that role, which has also really made my job a lot easier and made the teachers really, really, really want to work with me. I've never, like, we'll have a learning walk sometimes where all the district principals walk through your classroom, you know what I'm saying? And they always invite me to go on them, and I never go because I'm like, I don't want them to see me in that light. I don't want them to think I'm coming in there and judging them. So yeah, it's different, but it's good. It's sort of walking the fine line between being a teacher and being an administrator, but I get the best part of being the teacher side. I see some people want the PD materials. Yeah, I'll put them at the end of the slide deck. I'll link a Google folder at the end of the slides. Does that work?
Carrie, could you talk to us a little bit about your experiences at the Summer Institute and how that's kind of jump started this new career path for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I was so lucky to go to the Institute the summer that I took this job. So it was perfect timing. I had just switched over to this role, which I hadn't started yet, but and there was a panel discussion with other technology integrationists or technology coaches from all around at the Summer Institute that I got to go to, which just really quelled my fears, made me realize that there's a network of people to refer to and that other people were doing this work and it was successful. So that was one of the biggest takeaways I had from the Institute, was connecting with all of those people and seeing all the other people that were doing similar work to me. So that was really, really awesome. And we sort of kept like in a little group going in Rhode Island of all of our tech coaches. So we call it our nerd group. It's good. But it's yeah, it's pretty good. We call it Nerd Fest. We try and meet like every other month. But it's been really great. And a lot of them have been to the Institute either with me or the next couple summers. So we share a lot of the stuff. And yeah, it's been ongoing for me. I've been really lucky. I've been connecting with Mary Moen. I don't know if you guys know her, but she's a professor at URI. So I went and spoke to her class, so it's just been one thing after the next. And it's been awesome to keep learning and keep experiencing everything I learned at the Institute.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What was your inquiry project?
We actually did evaluating sources, so it was good. I worked with a fellow librarian that I know, Kristen Almeida. She works at Westerly High School. She's awesome. And we did evaluating sources for teachers, not for students. So teaching teachers how to evaluate sources. So
Right.
Cool.
Very cool.
And now you're teaching teachers. This is
Yeah.
amazing. You dreamt it and now you're doing it.
It all worked out.
Well,
All right, let's see if anybody has any other questions.
Let me know.
I'm looking at one of the last slides in your slideshow. When the last obstacle you list is communication/transparency from administration. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So we have a very top-down, excuse me, administration or a setup in our district. So a lot of times I don't find out about things until they're already happening.
Really?
Which probably is
I've never heard anything like that before.
Any institution or any school or anything like that. So we pushed really hard. The four of us, I have three other colleagues, like I said, that are technology integration specialists, and we work really well together. We're really lucky to have each other. But we push really hard to get our administration, especially our district level administration, to be transparent in what they're doing and to keep communicating with teachers.
Wow.
And yeah. So I feel
that's
like
the political part of your job.
Yeah, there's definitely some political parts to it. I'm constantly advocating for the teachers. So when someone starts saying like, oh, they just don't want to do, they just don't want to do blended learning, they just don't want to do spatial rotation, I'm like, no, that's not it. They just need support, so, but the transparency piece is more our IT director who, he comes around to the schools and visits, but he's not in a school, he's not a teacher. He'll make a blanket decision and not ask us first. And sometimes it doesn't work and sometimes it does. So that's been really tricky, but we have a very good working relationship where we can say to him like, hey, like that's not working, so, but it's definitely been a labor to get it where it is today and to get us all working together on the same page. I think because I'm in the curriculum and instruction department, which is where I want to be. I don't want to be in the IT department, but the IT department and the curriculum instruction department don't necessarily communicate on the regular. Right. But we all have pretty good working relationships.
I very much appreciate your transparency on that. I do feel like that is the complicated part of the job, is that you are you're the glue in between the leadership and the IT. You have to navigate across those leadership roles, and that can be tricky because people don't see everything, and you are closer to the ground at seeing what's working and what isn't than folks who are further away from the building, right? So it's a really important role to be an advocate for teachers, I think, in the role that you have.
Yes.
Okay, Michelle, you have a very hard act to follow, my friend. On Monday, May 6th, I just wanted to remind you, this is the Spring into Digital Literacy series. And Alex, can you tell us about what's happening next?
Certainly. Yeah, well, just like you said, we have Michelle coming up on May 6th, talking about how every teacher is a digital literacy teacher. So, Michelle, you got any highlights for us now? So everybody gets back to it.
Hard act to follow.
Yeah, no, I came here to learn. And so I appreciate, Carrie, learning from you this webinar for sure.
Oh, no, I feel like I learned so much from you guys, so it's been great.
Great. All right, well, if nobody else has any questions, I guess we'll call this a night. Thank you all for coming out. If you want to ask Carrie any questions, I just gave you her email, carrie.kelly@warwickschools.org. Feel free to hit her up.
No problem. You can email me with anything. And like I said, I will, tomorrow I'll put that Google folder on there with some of our PD presentations in there for you guys to take a look at. Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. It was so great.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful night.
Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Stop the recording.
All righty.